Hi everyone, welcome back to the Switch Show. Uh, let's talk about the gifts and the works of salvation. Before we get into it, I would love for you guys. I say I want you guys. It's not a command, it's a request. Maybe it is a command. Who knows? But I would love for you guys to subscribe, turn on the notification so that you get alerted, and then leave us comments on what you like, some topics you'd like to hear about. Because I have a list of topics that I want to discuss. There are things that have been front and center on my mind, and I'll absolutely love to share them with you, share my thoughts and my views on them. And you guys commenting or leaving your suggestions can open me to a whole new world of things that I've probably never come across before, things I haven't taken into consideration before, things that I might have seen and considered but not looked into as much. So, all I'm saying is your suggestions and your comments will not only help push the podcast further up the algorithm, but it will also help me curate better content that all of us can contribute to and enjoy listening, you know. Yeah. So today we're gonna be talking about the gift and works of salvation. This series has been particularly interesting because, first of all, when I thought about doing the series, I didn't think about Easter. So it wasn't really Easter centered in my head. I wasn't doing it like, oh, Easter celebration. Let me do something around the Easter celebration. Funny enough, it wasn't on my mind. I didn't even remember that Easter was in April. It was, I think, until the second episode that I remembered that, oh, wait, I'm doing a series on salvation in the month of April, and it so happens to line up with the Easter celebration. So I guess that's cool. That's pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't really thinking about Easter because salvation isn't just something to be discussed or talks about when it comes to festivities or celebrations in the Christian calendar. It's not just, these are not topics that are solely meant for one time in the calendar year or something, like we preach the birth of Jesus every Christmas. We preach the death and resurrection of Jesus every Easter. It's there's such a I don't want to say gap, but you can basically see the idea. But I'm not against it, but I'm not also 100% for it. Yeah, fine. It fits the season. I mean, we need to know the reason for our celebration. We need to know the reason why we commemorate certain things in the Christian calendar, whether it is year round or 1 month in the entire of the year or one day in the entirety of the year. We need to know why we celebrate what we celebrate, and that's pretty cool. However, I am of the opinion, and this is just my opinion, that as much as we do that during those seasons, as much as we remind people that, yo, Christmas isn't about Santa Claus, and it isn't just about giving gifts, it's about remembering or reminding ourselves of the ultimate gift God gave by the birth of his son Jesus. And when it comes to Easter, we s- not unsurprisingly anyway, Passion of the Christ shot up to top 10 movies because it's on Netflix. I don't know how long it will be there for, but it's on Netflix this Easter period. And so it shot up into the top 10, at least in Nigeria. I don't know for other parts of the world. I was in the top 10. I mean, because it's the Passion of the Christ, the death and resurrection of Jesus is front and center. That's cool. But yeah, like I said, I'm not against it, and I also advocate that we don't just restrict certain messages to certain times of the year, and at every opportunity that we have, we talk about it every time of the year. It doesn't have to be in December or March or April. It doesn't just have to be one and done every single year. It needs to be year round. All right. Yeah. So we're talking about the gift and the works of salvation. It's so special because I think I said this in the last episode how my church was doing a series in the month of April on the colors of grace. The theme is the colors of grace, basically about salvation. Why do you believe what you believe? What is your faith based upon? How have you received the message of Christ, and how are you delivering it? All these things in between. What is the price that was paid for the absolution? I wanted to say absolvement, for the absolution of our sins and things like that, things around it. And it's beautiful because I don't just have to form my own thoughts. I can learn from the study of other people, i.e. the pastor, and add that to my notes essentially, and then I can deliver a more hearty and hearty is not the word because this is not food, but anyway, I can deliver a more rich opinion because I'm going to say this quick disclaimer. Many of the things I say here are my opinion, and I try as much as possible to be as objective as I can, and I do it well most times. I like to think maybe I don't do it well all the time, and that's completely fine because I'm human. I'm going to have subjective takes and whatnot. Then again, I try to be as objective as possible. All right. So yeah, the gift and the works of salvation. What does it really mean? If you're lost and this is your first episode, I would implore you, urge you to go listen to the previous ones so that you catch up, you understand what the discussion is about. But basically, this topic is integral. It could have been the very first episode I released, but I wanted to get the facts straight before I talked about the gift and works of salvation. But yeah, it is an integral part of our faith to understand that our salvation is a product of the gift of God. It is not by works, it is not because of our sacrifices or hard work or righteous and moral upstanding. It is not because of anything that we could have done, anything that we are doing, anything that we did, anything we will ever do. Our efforts don't stack up. If we weighed our efforts side by side, the absolution of sin, not even a quarter, not an infinitesimal amount of our sins will be absolved. That's to show you how great a gift salvation is. Now, some people might call us kooky, some people might call us crazy. Why do you believe there is a man in the sky? He came down as a man, he was hung on a cross, he died, was buried, resurrected, appeared to a couple of people. These people could have been out of their minds for all we care, and every other thing, every other argument they have to disapprove the deity of Christ and then his resurrection as well. But it doesn't change the facts of the matter, it doesn't change the facts of the case. Christ did come, was born of a virgin. It's one of the hardest things to imagine, even as a child. Even I want to say as a child, but it didn't really sink in until I started understanding what it meant to give birth to a child. Because if you had told me that If you had told me that storks deliver children when I was a kid, I would have believed you. I would have believed you because, I mean, African parents are foreign to the idea of having the talk with their kids. There's no way. So imagine my surprise when I'm in class and the topic was, I think I remember, the topic was on menstrual cycle, was on the uterine cycle, and then telling us all the phases that women go through every month, the follicular stage, the luteal, I've forgotten all of them now, so I'm sorry if I don't get every other one. I think there's the ovulation and then menstruation. That's the last part. That's around the part where they start seeing that there's a rupture of the uterine, the inner lining of the uterus, and because the ovaries were not inseminated, because they were not inseminated, they have to go through this cycle every single month. And I even saw that some women still see their periods even while they are pregnant. So it's a crazy thing. So imagine my surprise when I am hearing things about insemination, and to myself, I'm wondering what is going on. And if you've been in any of those classes, you know how chaotic classes like that can be. When the teacher says, okay, I'm not hiding anything, I'm going to say everything as it is. When a man and a woman comes together and have intercourse and everybody goes, hi, oh my God, oh Jesus, we don't want to think about it. And things like that. It's always very funny. And then there are guys who just laugh, they don't want to seem frazzled or starstruck or shocked by it. Like, I know what these things are. Maybe some of them have had, I don't know. I was 12 or 13 at the time, and it was just also new information. And so when I actually thought about it, I say, hold on. Joseph didn't have to do anything. Mary just took in, or that's crazy. That's crazy. And logically, it doesn't make any sense. But if we sat down and looked at it, it just shows the magnitude. Why would God go through all that, permit me to say, stress just to deliver us? He could have just gone into hell, whooped Satan's butt, dragged the keys of life and death, and came on up and say, yo, I got it. You guys have to believe me now. If you don't believe me, you go chill with the devil. Feel me? Yeah. Peace out. And he just goes back up and everybody's like, oh my God. And he's like, yes, I am God. Like, yeah. But no, the reason he did it is because by one man sin entered the world, and death by sin. And so death passed upon all men for all that have sinned. It's so funny because you don't have to do anything. You could come out of the stomach and be morally upright from like age one. Be the most morally upstanding, dutiful kid, very respectful, obedient, and everything. And the Bible tells you you're a sinner. It doesn't make any sense. It's very conflicting because you give to your neighbor, you don't hold grudges. Even if someone does something very bitter to you, you don't hold grudges. I mean, it seems like you're incapable of holding a grudge. Everybody's dumbfounded at your ability to be so forgiving. You move with so much grace and so much poise and elegance, and someone looks at you and says, you're a sinner. It doesn't make any sense. It just shows that I take this from a man of God, a pastor, said the best of man is man at his best. And I've quoted this a couple times. I hope I have on this podcast. And that truly is it. For all of your good intentions and all of your best efforts, you can't match up to God's standard. Because the reason why our minds cannot comprehend the magnitude of his gift is we cannot match up to his standards. If there is a man up in the sky that is watching all over us, why can't he just absolve, get the absolve the word, rid the word of evil, quell the disparity, the bitterness, the anger, the tensions rising from wars and rumors of wars and natural disasters. Why can't he just end everything? Why can't he? And it's a question that unfortunately people will keep on asking because let's face it, we're all looking for a cop out. Because, like I said, even with your greatest intentions, you're still human and you're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to disappoint someone. You're still going to maybe lie. You're still going to do something that is not as moral as you thought. And we don't want to deal with the responsibility of our actions. So it is easy to say there is no God because there is evil. Evil wasn't in the world. Evil is a repercussion of sin. Now, the beautiful thing is that I, I quoted Romans 5:12 earlier. In Romans 5:15, I'm going to the King James version is really freaky. So I'm going to read from the message, even though a lot of people don't like the message version for some reason. It says, yet the rescuing gift is not exactly parallel to the death dealing sin Now this is even crazy. If one man's sin put crowds of people at a dead end abyss of separation from God, just think what God's gift poured through one man, Jesus Christ, will do. There is no comparison between that death dealing sin and this generous life giving gift. Some A version that people might be familiar with is King James, but not as the offense, so also is the free gift. For if through the offense of one many be dead, much more the grace of God and the gift by grace, which is by one man Jesus Christ, hath abounded unto many. Basically, it's telling you that through Adam, the first man, sin entered into the world. Through the second Adam, the last Adam, I might say, I don't know if that's theologically correct, but through the second Adam, or the last Adam, as I want to say, grace enters the world. So there is not much you can do to absolve yourself of sin. You just have to, and it's grappling with that is a problem. It's letting go of our self-serving desire, relinquishing that authority, relinquishing the need to be punished. I think humans have a need for punishment. I don't know. I don't know if that's I don't want to make a cross generalization, but sometimes it feels like we want to endure the consequence so that we have an excuse to either flip God or flunk out on God, or I don't even know if I'm using the words correctly, but we want an excuse to blame God, we want an excuse to point fingers at God. But when God tells you, come unto me, O ye that have labored and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Like, what do you mean? I want to carry this weight so that I can look at you and say, where were you in my pain? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, this is just me, my opinion. And maybe it's easy to be empathetic than it is to be, I want to say sympathetic, because someone who, nah, it's not easy to either be empathetic or sympathetic. Someone who has sympathy has never been through it. Someone who has empathy is putting themselves in your shoes or has been through it. Maybe until you actually go through tough times will you understand what someone's pain is, crying out from tough times. But like a wise man said, tough times never last. Only tough people do. Sorry, I'm sorry. But now let's talk about works. I'm gonna be quick about this. The conundrum is in James, where everyone says James talks about said faith without works is dead, and it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Say, what will it profit, my brethren, that a man say he has faith and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say to them, depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, and you don't do anything for them, what does it profit? Even so, faith, if it has not works, is dead, being alone. I'm going to squash this out quickly and so that you guys can have a short episode. He's not saying that works are needed for faith. He's saying that your works will show what your faith is. Put your money where your mouth is. Where a man's treasure is, that's where his heart lies. Those are all popular sayings or popular quotes, dare I say, coined from Faith Without Works is Dead. And there are several variations of those quotes. Because if you say, for example, if you say you love someone, you're not just going to say it, you're actually going to show it. It's the reason we have phrases like love bombing, where someone is so in love and they go on this tangent, buying gifts, sending love texts and love messages every morning, every afternoon, every night. They're doing all sorts of things to make you know that they love you. Maybe they do it in the initial, these grandiose acts of love and everything, but there these things are more or less indicators of where their heart lies. So you love God, you love His Word, it has to show. You have to be kind to your neighbor. Like it says here, someone is naked, meaning they don't have clothes. They're destitute of daily food. They don't got no food to eat. Basic necessities of life, food, shelter, clothing. You can't provide shelter. Maybe you're at an inconvenience and can't provide shelter. Okay. But you see someone who doesn't have good enough clothes. You see someone who doesn't have food on the table, and you're in a position to help. You don't just look at the person and say, oh, my brother, it is well with you. The Lord be with you. What? And he has fed into this silly narrative. And I know that years into the future, this episode is going to be brought up. So if you're listening to this now, you're one of the lucky ones. But he has fed into this silly narrative where God doesn't like poor people or doesn't want to associate with poor people. Now, this James, who wrote the book of James, was Jesus' brother. His brother, not son of Alphaeus or son of Zebedee, one of his disciples, his brother. Imagine you're not his disciple. He can go outside there and shout, blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the sons of God, preach the Beatitudes, preach to 5,000, but he's going to come home in the night. And you're going to see him and say, Jesus, have fun now. How markets today? Sermon good, are preaching day. People show, people give offering. This man saw Jesus. When people say see finish, I don't say he saw Jesus finish, but he knew Jesus. His disciples knew him because they had become his brothers. When they say see your mother, your brother, I was like, who's my mother? Who are my brothers and sisters? He was not disowning them, but he was saying that though I might be related to these people by blood, it doesn't change the bond that we share by the Spirit. All of us here are brothers and sisters. The actual The actual saying is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So do with that what you will. What am I saying with this? God has given us such a lavish gift, and that gift is salvation. Now, if you claim to be saved, spirit filled, tongue speaking, whatever it is, I don't really care. No, I care. I care what you believe. I take that back. I really care. If you claim to be all these things, it should show in your dealings with people, in your dealings with the average man, in the not so average man, in the person that is so high up at the greater height than you, someone you place on a pedestal. Your relationships or your relation with people should not change based on their strata or their class or societal status or financial prowess. It should not waver, it should not faint because someone has more to offer to you than the next person. If you treat people with kindness simply because they have a lot to offer to you, and you treat someone else with levity or indiscretion or discrimination because you don't see them adding to your life or contributing in any way. Now, this is not me trying to say you should yoke yourself with you should be unequally yoked to people or hold on to toxic relationships and friendships. And no, this is me saying that, like they say, no two fingers are equal. All fingers are different, of different lengths, of different girths. So the way you treat people should not change because of age, class, should not change because of any demographic. You should treat people the same. If you claim to be a follower of Jesus, you should treat all people the same with respect and with love, the utmost respect and love as Jesus would. And just maybe you will be making this world a better place. Thank you so much for listening. Catch you on the next one. Flip the switch and illuminate. Peace.